another edition of Johnny Davis live on this Friday, April the 10th, 2020. Oh boy, do we have a great show planned for you today. Oh my gosh. I'll be honest, I've been excited and nervous about this show all at the same time. But anyway, before we get into that, I always want to thank our sponsors, Blackout Fight Gear, blackoutfights.com. Be sure to check them out on their website, as well as my website at akpromotions.org. We have an entire store there for you that you can buy all of your gear, gloves, headgear, shin guards, whatever you need. And also Eastern Offset Printing for all they do for us. We also want to give since our sincere condolences to all the family and friends who lost someone in these very difficult times with the COVID-19. I know that people are going through a lot right now, a lot of financial difficulties and things like that as well. We're certainly thinking about you and hope that all will be well. In fact, we know things will be better. We will continue to, just keep pushing forward. Let's make sure that we're doing the right thing with our social distancing, as for what we are hearing, that it is working. And also we encourage you to stay home and follow the CDC guidelines, because I think that really is important right now for us to do that. I know some people, I've been seeing some things on Facebook where some people, they're trying to tell us what to do and trying to make us do that. Well, right now, guys, let's not be stupid, right? Let's try to do the right thing to make sure that we keep those who are more vulnerable safe. That is the thing. You might be all healthy, but again, if you're asymptomatic, perhaps you can give it to someone else. So I want you to be, considerate of other people. And I think in these times, until we get a green light, let's do the best that we can. Also, I want to thank all of those people on the front lines right now, our doctors, our nurses, our sanitation workers, retail workers, and so many others who are out there putting their lives on the line, to kind of keep things at some level of a normality, if you will. Again, in very difficult times. Today's show is going to be one, as I said, I was a little nervous about doing that, but at the same time, I felt like it was one that was needed because I have a personal friend, a really close friend of mine, who told me something that just was absolutely amazing and all. And so I want to share this story with you. But along with that, we have two people on the show today that I think you will be absolutely fascinated by. Both of these men have an extensive amount of knowledge and expertise in the firearm industry and all. And so our goal today is going to be to educate you about these weapons, these firearms, and at the same time, perhaps help you better understand if you even should own one of these, right? A lot of people assume that, I'm just going to get my gun and somebody mess with me, I'm going to shoot them. Okay. If you think it's that easy, right? Okay, you got another thought coming. If you don't think this responsibility is huge, you have another thought coming. Our guest today is going to be one of the firearm expert. He's a martial artist. He works in a gun store. Currently, he's out of Sumter, South Carolina, Mr. Don Cody Jr. So we're looking forward to speaking with him, along with another expert who's a trainer in North and South Carolina, Mr. Isaac Richard, who's also a black belt martial artist. So we have people who are in the industry who know a lot about this particular field. And again, I would say that this is an area I don't know much about, right? And that will be proven over and over again, probably through this broadcast, right? But at the same time, I think, based on the experience of my friend, that you need to check in on this and listen on. Okay, so before we really get into the show, I really want to go through a couple of statistics that I think that you maybe are not aware of. Perhaps you are and all, but I think that in learning more about these statistics and everything, I think that it might give you an idea of why we need to do more shows like this, because this is going to be an intelligent conversation today, an intelligent conversation about firearms and firearm safety. Okay, so gun violence statistics, and we're talking about pretty much overall, but gun violence exacts an enormous toll on Americans, claiming tens of thousands of lives each year. Weak gun laws and unfettered access to firearms have made it far too easy for people to take their own lives and the lives of others. Gun violence shapes the fabric of our society, traumatizing millions and imposing substantial financial burdens that we all share. So the below are some of the statistics. This is coming, by the way, from the Guilford Law Center website, if you want to check out all of the statistics that they have on their website and some of the things that they are telling you that. But anyway, check this out. 36 of the 36,383 Americans killed with guns each year, 22,274 are gun suicides. That's 61% of people kill themselves with a gun. Okay. And obviously, some of them are accidental shootings. A lot of them are accidental shootings. And obviously, we have some law enforcement shootings that are going on as well. On average, 100,000 Americans are wounded with guns each year, often with life-altering consequences. So they give a couple statistics also by state. It makes the statement here. While comprehensive efforts to enact safer gun laws have yet to succeed at the federal level, record numbers of states have taken bold action to save lives. As a result, gun violence rates vary from state to state. And that's something that our guests are going to talk a little bit about today, is that you go in one state, the laws are one thing. You go into another state, the laws are totally something different. And that's really catchy. Somebody even warned my friend about traveling from state to state with a weapon, because it could be something totally different in another state. Nationally, about 12 people are killed with guns for every 100,000 in the United States. In Alaska, though, Alaska has the highest gun death rate among the states, as well as some of the weakest gun laws. Nearly 25 people are killed with guns for every 100,000 residents. Now, Hawaii, on the other hand, has the lowest gun death rate and some of the strongest gun laws in the country. Comparatively, only 2 people per 100,000 are killed. Gun violence internationally, the United States accounts for just 4% of the world's population, just 4% of the world's population, but 35% of global firearm suicides and 9% of global firearm homicides. That's huge. That's huge. Anyway, there's a ton of statistics here. The question is, ultimately, should you really own a weapon? Do you really need one, and why? Those are important questions. So I want to take a moment, and I want to share a story from a very dear friend of mine, really good friend of mine, somebody that I've been knowing for a very long time. He's a martial artist. Pretty confident guy, travels a lot. So he thought maybe he might need a weapon. So I want to just take a few minutes and go through the process of what he did. Now, he told me all this stuff, and I listened intently, right? Because he was a friend of mine. So I said, he begins to tell me about, well, he goes down to apply for a permit, right? To purchase a weapon, right? So he goes and he applies for this weapon, is whatever that process was, it's kind of near the police station, I think he said it was, right? And then he gets this piece of paper, goes and takes it into a big box store. And when he takes it in there, they say, oh, well, you need this, you need that. Basically, they gave him a little bit of a runaround, even though he had the correct address and he has a good background check and everything, no problem. So he actually ends up having to have the people at the permit office call the store to tell them that he was okay. Don't know why, but he did. That's a whole nother point in this whole thing today. This show is going to go a little over an hour today. I can tell you that right now. It won't be a normal hour, but it's only one show today. So then he goes back to the store, confronts the guy. The guy goes through, looks at everything again and says, okay, you're fine. So he goes through the selection process of looking, just saying, he would just ask a couple of questions. about what about this one? What about this one? He would just tell me the information about this and about that. Didn't ask the person whether or not what his background was, what did he have any training in these or anything. Just the fact of it is, he wanted to sell this weapon. So the person, my friend, bought the weapon, walks out of the store. And in fact, he was escorted out of the store. He was escorted out of the store. He comes back home. This is what he tells me. He comes back home and he puts it away. He never shot it. Never hardly did anything. He saw a couple of online. Never even loaded up. You know, see, that's how much. I'm telling the story, but whatever he told me that was the clip, right? Never really loaded. Tried to load it a few times. So he tells me, right? It was very, very difficult. So he saw some online video. He's consulted with some of his friends. They sent him a couple of videos and how to get this done. This is an important story. I want you to hear this story because I, hearing his story, found out what the problem is, right? So really important. So he brings it back. He tries to, play with it and, not loading it because he was scared to death of it. So he tells me, right? Anyway, he signs up for a concealed weapons class because he said, well, that's what you got to do before you actually go out and shoot this thing. That was in his mind. So then he gets the class. It was a 2-day class, 4 hours each. When the class time came up, no one asked any questions before or anything. He walks into the class. Now, when he walks into the class, the first thing that he noticed that he was the only, now my friend just happened to be a person of color, just happened to be. He happened to notice that he was the only one in this class of color. And that was a little strange, to be honest. About 20-some people in the class. That was a little strange. No big deal. Hey, just come through. He loves everybody, so it doesn't matter. But it was something that he noticed. He goes through the class, first 4 hours, and he's listening intently. And what he found out immediately, that everybody else in the class had already been shooting. They had already been shooting. He, on the other hand, had never even shot his weapon. Never. Okay? So after the first day, he was nervous as all get up. Really nervous. And so the guy was talking about all these laws, responsibilities, and things we're going to talk about a little bit later. He's talking about all these things. And the guy, oh my gosh, by the end of the first class, he was already saying, there is no way I really want to do this. I really don't want to own this weapon. And this is what he was telling me. So the next day, for the next 4-hour class, it was at night, he comes back to class and he sits down in the class. And that was the night they were going to actually shoot the weapon, but they had to take a test first. So he aced the test. Obviously, it's just written stuff. He's a pretty smart guy. He aced the test. So then it came time to shoot. Now listen, these other guys already shot. So the instructor takes people out to the class, out to the range, and he took them in like 4 at a time. What he also did not tell us, that it was going to be like a boot camp in there. Load! Shoot the weapon! Oh, yeah! And it was like, oh, crap. So that just added to the fear and the anxiety of this new guy in here. Oh, by the way, the guy, my friend, used to hunt. So he shot a lot of rifles. Very good at shooting rifles. But a pistol is something totally different. Okay. So he goes into the range. And he begins to shoot. Oh my gosh. First of all, when he said load the clip or whatever, you had to load. Couldn't even hardly get the bullets in, number one. First sign. Then, when he finally got it in, after the instructor comes over and gives him a little bit of a hand, gets in, he aims it, he shoots, and basically ends up shooting, I think he told me, around 15 rounds. Some of them were pretty good shots. But I swear to you, all the boom, boom, ba da ba ba. You almost could have taken him and put him under the table. He was so nervous. Between himself and the trainer saying, you might not, because the gun jammed a couple times. At that point, it was like, oh man, like hands off, Okay, I don't need to be in here. Oh, did I say my friend does not need to be in here, right? So finished up, came out. I'm telling you, after that, he really needed counseling after that. It was the most traumatic thing he'd ever gone through. I mean, it was like a white belt starting in a kickboxing class or a martial arts class. That's how devastating that was. Okay, so he tells me, right? Anyway, when he got back home, he locks it away and has not taken it out since, as he is awaiting further training, right? Before that moves any further. So, my guests have been listening in, right? And so, what I want to do, I want to go ahead and I want to bring them on right now to chat with them just a little bit about what they heard in the story, right? And perhaps give us a little bit of advice on what we can do. So first, let's bring up Mr. Donald Cody. He'll be coming up on the screen here shortly, and we're going to go ahead and bring up also Mr. Isaac Richards. Both of these guys are going to be right here with me. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Doing good, doing good. Let me do a quick switcheroo here because I want to put myself in the middle, just so that we can, really get into this conversation and I can talk to both of you at the same time and just kind of go from there. Find Isaac there again. There he is. Bring him back up there. Let's see. I think I would have to take myself down first, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we'll do it like this right here. Okay, I just kind of reversed it somehow. All right, so guys, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. All right, so Donald Cody there, we have you right there to the right there. We certainly want to chat with you a little bit. Tell me, what did you hear in that story?
Well, it seems like the store you went to, you said it was a big box.
No, not me, my friend.
Well, okay, your friend.
Yeah.
The store that your friend went to, the big box store. My experience a lot of times with the big box stores is you just have a retail person there, not so much someone who knows much about firearms. So they're selling a product. They don't always know a lot about the product because they may not be specialists in that product, as opposed to the gun stores that I've worked at and currently work at now. That's what we do. We don't have a whole bunch of other products. I can't go from one department to another if someone doesn't show up. In some of those big box stores, the guy may be selling sneakers one day and then, well, such and such didn't show up. I need you at the gun counter today. So you don't always have people who are that knowledgeable that are in that department. Not always, but quite often. As opposed to, like when I work at the gun store, that's what we do. So we can talk to you more about your need. What is it that you plan on doing with the particular firearm, and then be able to steer you based on your experience and what you intend on doing with the firearm. Is it for sport? Is it for self-protection? Are you a novice? Are you experienced?
And we can now. He was asked none of those questions.
Pardon?
He was asked none of those questions.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. The difference between an actual specialty store versus a big box store. They're just selling a product versus a specialist in the subject matter of what they're doing.
Yeah,
what's your take on that, Isaac?
No, what Don said is exactly right. In fact, in my classes, I recommend people don't go to generic big box stores if they have very little experience for that exact reason. I have no issues with big box stores selling guns, but I usually say only go to those if you know the exact weapon that you want and you've handled it, you've shot it, and you know what you want to buy. Don't go to those stores if you have no clue or you're a beginner or you're a novice, right? The biggest thing is that I recommend is find an instructor first, somebody that can go and teach you how to properly shoot, determine what your needs are, recommend different firearms. Most instructors will have a whole slew of guns you can try out, during the thing. But just going to a big box store with no experience, I would not recommend that. And the other thing too, it caught my ear is you said you were escorted out. right?
My friend was, yes.
Right. Don't take it personal. Big box stores do that. They that is in their policy and procedures that a customer can never be left alone with the firearm. So if you're at the gun counter and you purchase it, they will escort you all the way up to the top, to the register, watch you buy it, and then basically just gently usher you out the door. And it's a safety thing. And these are big companies and stuff. So it had nothing to do with you in that instance.
Right. Okay.
This will make the other customers more comfortable, because when a big box store, you'll have people who are there shopping for other things, and they may not have the same view on firearms, and they're like, there's a person with a firearm, as opposed to there's someone being escorted. I feel safer because there they go. So the corporations have that policy for all of their customers, not just the person who's purchasing it, but to make everyone feel better.
Okay. Well, one of the problems with the story as well, guys, and my friend walks away. He walks out with any training, even after he finishes his class. Obviously, he did not get his permit. But the big problem is he still has the weapon. Bing! There lies the problem. It is ass backwards.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Don.
About you've taken, this person has taken a responsibility on themselves. They may still have the firearm. It is beholden to them to get educated. Just because you have it doesn't make you an expert. And if you've made the decision to take on that responsibility, and there's that word, responsibility, you need to follow up with that responsibility. A lot of people do things that can cause problems. It's not just firearms. And I have a personal story about a neighbor who owned a firearm and attempted to kill his wife, but it wasn't the firearm that was used. So it's not just the tool, but the person handling the tool. So if you're going to take on that responsibility, like you said, it's a serious responsibility. You need to get the education for the tool that you're going to own. Because a firearm, like anything else, it's a tool. It's a machine. You have to know how to operate the machine. If you're not comfortable with the machine, don't open the machine. It's not for everybody.
Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Okay. We're not talking about going and picking up a saw or a hammer.
No.
We're talking about a kill weapon. We're talking about something that can seriously hurt, harm, or kill someone. Okay?
Yes.
And so all you can do is walk into a store with the right general information, and you have a clean background, an address, and you can buy a kill weapon, not even really knowing if I'm sane or insane. So here's another point. And speaking of sanity and insanity, there's a really thin line when it comes to sanity and insanity. You take that Uber driver in 2016. They thought he was sane. He had a weapon. The guy killed 6 people.
Yeah.
So that's the thin line. So there's are you telling me the fact that it is okay for someone, just because they have proper information, to go and to buy this weapon before they're trying? Oh, no. I got a better scenario. My daughter is learning how to drive. Hey, honey, take the keys and go drive. I've never shown you anything, but I want you to take the keys and go drive, go on the interstate and everything. And then come, if you come back home, then I will teach you how to drive.
Yeah, but
there's not something wrong with this.
But you can apply this with anything, though. And to Don's point, I mean, when you get your license, how do they know you're not insane? That you're going to get in your car and go drive through a crowd of people? It's anything. I can go down and buy a chainsaw. I could do a lot of damage with a chainsaw.
Yeah. But
you know, but the concepts that you're bringing up are universal to everything.
Yeah. But we know that guns were either designed for one or two things for the most part. They were probably designed at some point for hunting, right? I would say, and obviously for military purposes, okay? And obviously some people just like to shoot them for sport, right?
Mhm.
But those first two has to do, when a self-defense thing or whatever, or killing, it has to do with killing on those first 2 points. So this is not a typical tool, if you will, that you're going to pick up. This is something that is designed overall to kill. And you can walk right in the store and purchase it, not really, and if you've had no mental health, quote unquote, mental health issues where it's documented, you can go in and you can get this weapon. So are we saying that law is not ass backwards? Are we really going to justify that we should not get training before? Like, in other words, the class that my friend took, he should have had that class first, gotten the permission to then be able to purchase. What are your thoughts?
Well, you can't test people before a purchase. You can't sit there and go, let's give this guy a mental health questionnaire or a mental health test before they can purchase something.
Don, I'm not talking about mental health. We're talking about mental health, yes, but we know that, again, there's a thin line between sanity and insanity, as I said earlier. My point is, though, the test about if he knows how to operate this weapon. And you're telling me, again, I'm giving my keys to my 16-year-old before I teach her how to drive, before I teach her about the importance of understanding the car, the brakes, the gas, left turn, right turn, all these things. I'm going to give her the keys first to go out and try it, because that's what I'm doing. When you are allowing me to purchase a weapon, that is what you are doing, essentially. So listen, this is not about gun ownership. This is not about your rights to own. That's covered in the Constitution, the Second Amendment. We're not talking about some level of common sense to try to slow down getting some of these guns in the hands of people who are not proficient enough, might not be capable, might not be responsible enough to actually handle them.
Right. And unfortunately, there's no way to know ahead of time whether or not it's capable. Because a lot of times people think they're capable, and we have to assume as a society that every person we talk to is intelligent and is capable. We have to assume that. We can't assume.
I don't know about that, Don. I don't know about that. That's what assumption does, right? We might need, when it comes to a kill weapon, and that's what I call them. When it comes to a kill weapon, we might need to assume the opposite first.
But now restriction of someone owning one, you'd have to put them through an entire test, and you'd be talking about testing every person before they could own anything. Just like, it's almost impossible to even think that way.
But Don, you give, I'll use me as an example. You give me a kill weapon, and then you require me to go and get trained on it afterwards. If I am not just quite right, no one sat my friend down on some, like a lie detector or some mental health. No one did. He was allowed to purchase. This is my whole point. He has the weapon. If he just wanted to go out and do something crazy, it's too late then to say, oh, we got to go get it out.
So let me ask this, though, Johnny.
Help me with this, Isaac.
Let me ask this then. How are you going to deny somebody a right and put all of these hurdles in front of them to exercise a right? Okay,
so let's reverse that question. Okay, so and thank you guys so much for being on today. This is so much. This is good therapy for me. This is good therapy for me. So you say, how do you, and look, it can still be your right of ownership. It doesn't mean that you don't set up some guidelines. And we're not taking away your right.
Okay. So you might have the ability to pay for training, to pay for all of this other stuff, for licensing, for registration, for training and stuff. But a lot of people don't. So what you've basically done is you put a hurdle, a barrier to exercising a constitutional right based upon economic ability to pay.
No, no one said anything about paying. Listen, right now we're in a really bad situation.
But no. But you do have to pay.
Look,
You do have to pay, though.
Huh?
If you would have to pay, if you're requiring people to have training prior to purchase, which is what the crux of your issue is, right? You can buy without knowing, right, how to use it.
Right. Right. Well, but I'm saying is, wherever the money, we don't want to make it about economics right now. Right. I'm just simply saying that, let's say if you took the economics out of it, I'm talking about the being logical and some level of common sense here. Okay. That why not have a person at least go through classes before
I recommend that. I recommend it. I mean, that's a good that is a good responsible thing to do.
Okay,
but I don't see how you can require it.
Well, I mean, they're required. I mean, look, laws are laws. Government's government. They do what they do. I understand this. You know, we have a lot of things going on right now that are require stay-at-home things, and people are mad about that as well. Listen, we're not going to satisfy everybody, and I certainly do understand that. It's just that one piece, when my friend went through that process, was very disturbing to me, and it kind of answered the question to, or the answer. It was the answer to why so many people have these guns, because there is like no regulation on that first part.
Let me ask this.
Actually being able to acquire it.
So I'm going to turn this around on you real quick, all right? So there's a saying, there's two ways you change society, right? By voting or by revolution, right? Voting. You're going to have a civics test to make sure people know how government works before they vote, because there's, to your point, there's a lot of stupid people out there that are voting.
But voting doesn't kill you.
Yeah, ask the citizens that can't vote, right? In all the other countries.
Listen, the consequence of not voting can cause a lot of killing. I understand that. But what I'm talking about again, yes, Don?
Voting both ways. You're talking about exercising a right and using intelligence. Exercising a right and using intelligence. If you choose to exercise a right, you have to use your intelligence when you use that right, no matter what that right may be. And in the case of purchasing a firearm for self-defense, which is the primary reason people are buying them right now, they feel they need protection. There's a certain degree of fear going on right now, and they feel that that is the answer to their fear, is to have that security blanket, that security feeling, in this case, a security firearm. So what we can encourage, but we can't force, is to people to use intelligence. When someone goes out to purchase a firearm, they should research what they're doing, not just panic buy, panic activate in whatever feeling that they have. Responsibility, personal responsibility is something that we all have. Just like when people go out, like you talked about, giving the keys to the car. Well, that is exercising personal responsibility. You feel it would not be intelligent to give that person those keys because you're putting them in a 2-ton bullet.
Wouldn't you say that too? Don't you agree with that, Don?
And far
Don,
more
don't
people
you agree with that?
vehicles every year.
But Don, don't you agree with that example? That you would not give your child the keys to the car without some training?
Right, because I'm using intelligence when I make that decision. The same thing with the firearm. I would use intelligence. The first time I bought a firearm, I didn't just go out and say, oh, I want a gun, I'm going to go, and I don't know anything about them. I exercised my personal intelligence and responsibility in shopping, knowing what I could do, knowing how they operated. It was something that I took on personally because I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew that I was going to have to deal with other people. Even throughout my life, as I've had children, I've taken the responsibility to teach my children from the time that they were big enough to understand words. Because I had firearms equipment around. I shot competitively. My shooting bag, all my magazines, even the shells themselves. My daughter would stop and point because she knew that was part of the whole gun stuff. It was just an empty casing that I had dropped when I came home from a match. And she stopped and pointed at the casing because she was smart. I trained her. I took the time. I was smart to let them know what was going on. So I've always used my intelligence throughout the entire process. And that's what we would like, is for people to use their own intelligence in whatever process they're taking. And something as important as this, definitely take it even more serious and use their personal responsibility and intelligence every step of the way. You could do that with so many things that we own. When you start talking about simple things like chemicals in the house, we've got people out there who are doing Tide Pod challenges and eating detergent, displaying how unintelligent a human can be.
Yeah, Don, I understand that. But again, we're talking about the kill weapon. And that is something a lot more serious than a lot of these.
Yeah. I don't even agree with that terminology.
Anything can be made a weapon.
Kill weapon it's one of those monikers that can be put on something that just immediately puts evil in an inanimate object. It's not a kill weapon. Okay. It is a weapon that can be used. It is a tool, a firearm, whatever you want to call it, that can be used for more than just killing. Like we said before, people use it for sport. I shot as a competitive shooter for years. I have shot hundreds of thousands of rounds. Not once have I killed anybody. So my firearms are not kill weapons. Okay. They've never killed anybody.
Okay. But they seem okay. I respect that, right? I respect that, and I'll try to refrain from calling it that, right? Because I respect you guys and your expertise and all of that. But indeed, as I gave you the statistics a little bit earlier, most people, if they're going to kill somebody or kill themselves, it is with that particular type of weapon.
So real quick,
right there for one moment.
Okay.
3 incidences. 3.
Okay.
In my life, when my mother attempted suicide.
Oh, okay.
Twice with glass on her wrists, once with pills. Firearms were something that was always readily available. Never bought one, never owned one, never used one for it. My neighbor across the street did attempt to kill his wife. Had firearms in the house. Didn't use a firearm. In a moment of passion, used a screwdriver. Didn't succeed. I saved my neighbor's life, thankfully, and it was one of those things in my life that brought a lot. It was a traumatic experience. But again, the tools were there.
Yeah,
else. So it's not just that.
And back on your statistics, the website you're getting from them is very biased to begin with. And here's an example of it, all right?
Let me just say this, Isaac. I also have statistics from the NRA coming up as well.
No, it's fine. But okay. I want to because I made a note during your intro, right?
Please.
Japan, they have a higher per capita suicide rate than the United States. You can only own a shotgun after heavy training, licensing, or an air rifle there. They don't use weapons in Japan, yet they have a higher per capita suicide rate.
Suicide rate with guns?
Just in general.
That's totally different.
No. It's not because this is why. What it points to is that it is not the tool. It is the underlying condition of the society that you are talking about.
Okay.
It is not the tool. If we didn't have guns, trust me, our suicide rate would still be.
Of course, we're talking about mental illness and all of those areas like that. And of course, if somebody wants to take themselves out, they're going to find a way.
That's right. So if that's the case, why even bring it up as it is a gun problem? It's not a gun problem. It's a suicide problem.
So the thing about this is that not so much that remember the premise of the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Who should actually own one? And all of these people were on, because a lot of these people, there was a funeral a few weeks ago where these 2 young men both had guns. Whether or not they went through training, I don't know, but both of them shot and killed each other. Now, I just want to say that the fact of the availability of the guns, everybody's not purchasing them. Some people are getting them legally, some people are getting them illegally, but they're out there. All I'm simply trying to go say to the viewers, before you have possession of one of these, right, that you should be properly trained.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm a trainer. That's what.
But before you even, and I'm going to add on to that, before you even have access to get one legally, you should also be trained. You
That's
should
where we
have
differ.
class at least. And
But
I'm just saying, and I'm glad. I love you guys. You guys are awesome,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you're on today because I wanted to have, because I know you, and both, and we're all respectful to each other. And that's what I like about this. That's why I tell people this is going to be the most intelligent conversation ever because I want to be that person. But again, my friend is okay with ownership of a weapon, but he's not okay with the idea of how he went about getting it and still has it and not trying. How many people out there are accidentally shooting? But listen, I want to digress. I want to move forward because we have a lot more questions and stuff, but that was just one of the issues there. I mentioned earlier about, and you mentioned also, Don, about so many weapons being sold right now.
Yes.
I want to ask, why are there so many weapons being sold right now during a pandemic, doing something that has nothing really to do with this medical issue?
Well, here's why. Here's my particular take on this. Humans, we are herd animals. We're social animals. We thrive in groups. We thrive. Our protection is felt in the herd, in the group. So when we're allowed to be social, we're allowed to be around others, we feel safer. When you tell us or force us to be alone, we feel vulnerable. Feel like we're not in control. And we know, as a society, there are very, very few police out there. So we feel like we have to take our personal safety unto ourselves. Because when seconds count, this is a tagline you'll hear, when seconds count, the police are minutes away. Unfortunately, that's the truth. I've had it here at my house with a break-in. It took the police 45 minutes. Now, I don't blame them. They are stretched so thin. You can't possibly have them with you 24/7. So what's going on now is people, it's been ramped up. It's amped up. The mainstream media is telling us how dangerous everything is right now. They look at the shelves and there's nothing on the shelves. There's no food. There's no toilet paper, oddly enough. But they're seeing all of this, and that puts them into a panic. It puts them into a scared mode. Remember that fight or flight? You know, they want to defend themselves. They want what they have continues to be theirs, including their life. So when you frighten them like this, and then you separate them, and then you make them be on their own, they feel they have to protect themselves somewhere. And without lots of training, which take years, years and years of training, something that could be learned fast. And unfortunately, Hollywood, movies, television have shown people that that's the quick answer. So they go for the quick answer rather than taking the time to really learn what they're doing. And that quick answer is, well, according to the movies, these guys have a firearm. Then they have the John Wayne gun that'll shoot forever without reloading. And they say, that's the answer.
What is your take on that, Isaac?
Well, no, I agree with this assessment of why people are mass purchasing firearms right now. I mean, I'm an FFL, right? And I'm selling lots of guns right now, but I'll say this. It goes back into the personal responsibility and the training aspect of it. I love that more firearms are being sold to responsible people. I like that.
How do you know they're responsible? It goes all the way back to that.
But hang on a second. That's right. But I also have a concern. All right. And this is what I have a concern with is that you now have people, and these people have called me, Don, I'm sure they probably come into your shop, depending on how much inventory you have. They say, give me something. I don't care what. I need a gun. I need a 9mm or something to that effect, right? They have no clue even what they don't even really know how they're going to use it. Are they going to conceal carry? Is it for home defense? Is it pulling double, triple duty as target practice? So you have a large group of people, and this concerns me because I'm part of this industry and I want to be a responsible part of this industry, right? In that you have a lot of folks that are picking up firearms right now, and they need to understand that they have to be responsible about it. So that is a concern. And that's why when you sell, like, we harp on the safety issues, if I see a customer come in and I see that they are totally clueless, you know what? Why don't we have a training class?
Okay.
So it's tough, but I'll also tell you that the other side real quick that is good about this, especially in places like California and some of the ones that have very extreme gun control. People are realizing that some of the things that their political leaders have been telling them aren't really true. Like, you can just buy a gun and have it shipped to you at your house, right? Or you can just walk into a store and buy a gun. Well, not in California. You got to wait 10 days, you know?
Mm.
And I think it's really opened up a lot of people's eyes that have this fear component that Don mentioned, and they're going to get a firearm. And now all of a sudden they're told they got to wait 10 days or, you know, and they're like, well, the politicians made it sound like we don't have gun control. Well, that's not true.
Interesting points, very interesting points and everything. So I understand that people are a little afraid right now. And both of you guys made some very good points of why people are afraid. And I do understand that. I mean, someone brought up, Robert Amos brought up looting with no jobs, the fact that people might start breaking into your house and all of that. But it still brings back the fact that if you don't really know how to use that weapon, you were just able to get it, and you think that you might shoot your family, you might shoot yourself. What about all of that? Again, that just goes all the way back to the premise of what I said earlier in the show, that the law is ass backwards in that sense, that you can get one without any training. Okay, I'm going to hold on to that one, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to hold on to that idea.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. So now guys, on Johnny Davis Live is real talk and real solutions, right? So I want to dig a little bit here. We're going to get into it, man. I'm going to get into it. Out of the people who are buying the guns, why does it seem to be mostly white men buying these weapons?
That's what I'm seeing.
That's not true. I don't think that's true.
In my store, it's definitely not what I'm seeing.
Don,
me either.
Don, let me hear your take on that.
In my store, the demographic we're getting is all over the map. As a matter of fact, mostly of the male white men that you're talking about, they're probably, for the most part, are already firearms owners. What I've seen a lot of ladies, a lot of older people, and I'm seeing people of color.
But if you had to break down, Don, if you had to break down what's coming into your store, what would you say that percentage would be like? What would it look like between racial people that are buying? Because I got a bigger part of this that I want to get into, because there's some stereotypes that happen as well. And hopefully I'm not just stereotyping. It's kind of what I've seen, but I want you to tell me if I'm wrong. So of the people's percentage-wise that are buying in your store, particularly, Don, what are you seeing?
Like I said, the most of the white adults that I know already own. So when they're coming into the store, usually they're coming in maybe for ammo, but as far as first-time gun buyers, it's definitely the opposite demographic of what you're talking about. First gun owners are not male white men. I mean, I just don't see that.
Yeah.
I'm seeing older people, women, and people of color and people of ethnicity. Just yesterday, I actually sold to only I would say 25% of what was sold yesterday was to anyone white.
Say that again, Don.
I said yesterday, what I sold yesterday, I would say only 25% was male white. Everything else was some ethnicity of color or other than white.
So everybody's scared.
Yeah.
Well, everybody is involved in this. The entire nation, every part of the demographic you can think of, young, old, middle class, lower middle class. You look at it all. Everybody's concerned.
And I'm sure grandma knows how it's going to go get trained, and already probably has been trained with that weapon, more than likely, right?
But actually, when I've talked to them, one of the first things I ask them is, why are you looking to buy it? And then if they want to see a firearm, I'm having them actually manipulate the firearm to see if they're even capable. And a lot of times, just that test manipulation, they find out right away it's not as easy as I thought it was. And quite often that will steer them away completely. They say, well, what can I do? And I turn them around and I point to a sign that's on the wall, and I tell them use their camera on their phone to take a picture, and I send them to a particular training facility. I said, if you go to this person here, You can get the training, and then you can be more comfortable. Then come back and see me.
Mhm.
When you and I'll tell you flat out, when you feel more comfortable, then come back and see me.
Okay.
Because I can tell they're nervous and they're not handling it. They're having trouble with it, and I know they're not ready, and I tell them honestly, you don't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel right in your hand. You don't feel ready. Go do this first. Go see this person and get some training. And they're actually thankful that I didn't just pass it over the counter.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you agree with that, Isaac?
Responsibility and use of intelligence.
Yeah, no, that's how it should work.
Okay.
That's being responsible. That's being a responsible individual, and that's being responsible caretaker of the industry.
Okay.
But what I see though, what I see from training, because I primarily do North Carolina and South Carolina concealed carry classes, right? So what I see, and this mirrors what Don said, it's primarily women and retirees. Where I train, we're right next to Sun City, which is a huge retiree community and stuff. So I see a lot of retirees, I see a lot of women, and then I also see a lot of African Americans. And they just released the most latest study. So right now there's about almost 20 million licensed concealed carry individuals in the nation, right? So this is holistically, okay? That shot up from 16 million the prior year. So it went up on basically about 3 million, some change in a year.
Wow.
And they broke down the demographic of that. The number one drivers of that are women and minorities.
That's interesting. Look, one of our viewers today, Mr. Roberto Armes, is asking a question. He wants to know, I have a question. He said, do most people purchase by price range for first-time buyers? Don?
Some people are coming in and asking about price, but quite often people are coming in and they're asking the question, and this is a hard question to answer because everybody's different. They say, what's the best gun?
Yeah.
And you'll agree with me on this one. What's the best gun is so individual. But what I always steer people to, if they're novices, if they're first timers, I will generally steer them towards a revolver. Because with a revolver, you don't have the magazine that has to go in, the magazine that has to be loaded, the slide that has to be pulled, which can sometimes take a bit of manipulation and strength. Whereas a revolver, it's quite basic, it's simple, it's easy to handle, and they come in such a variety of sizes and price ranges. So, like I said, I generally interview the person I'm talking to find out, do they come in by price? They ask about price, but I don't think that's the number one driver.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I mean, I can find and recommend a quality firearm in any price range.
Okay.
I don't care if you come in and say, I have $200 to spend. Give me a quality, dependable gun. That's easy. There's tons of guns out there that I could find in that price range. It really comes back to what are they using it for? What are they comfortable with? And to Don's point, a revolver, I think that's a great weapon to learn how to shoot on because it really teaches trigger discipline because they have long trigger pulls and stuff. And I know all this is going over your head, Johnny, right now, but it's fine. Right? But it's a great weapon.
Knows a little bit about
No. But listen, it's a great weapon to learn how to shoot on, though. But from a safety perspective, there might be better ones because with the revolver, when that cylinder's closed, they're all double action. Like you pull the trigger, it goes bang, type of thing. So, but that's where it is that you have to understand what the customer is looking for and what they're comfortable with.
And you got to balance.
Yeah.
Right. Really interesting. I kind of want to transition here for a moment about open carry, right? I know open carry laws are different by state to state and everything, but there's a couple of issues that I have with open carry. First of all, there's nothing that bothers me more to walk into a Walmart and to see this little guy about 5 feet high, no offense to short people, right? And he has a big old gigantic gun goes up and down his leg, right? And he's walking around like he's the sheriff of the Walmart, right? Or whatever store that he's in. And
why does that bother you? But why does that bother you? I'm just curious.
I'm going to tell you why it bothers me. Yeah. It bothers me because it's almost like an intimidation factor. Hold on. It is almost like to say, don't talk to me, don't say anything to me. Socially, why would I go and ask that person anything? Why would I even want to say? Because I do not know what type of mentality they have.
But see, listen though.
I don't know how quick they might just, I might just all of a sudden bump them accidentally.
But see,
a big intimidation factor, Isaac.
But that's all based on your perception of guns.
Okay.
If I walk into a store and I see somebody open carrying, I could care less. It's the same thing as them having a water bottle when they're handing me.
Because you are
it doesn't
an
even.
instructor.
But I have comfort with firearms. You don't have to be an instructor to have comfort with firearms.
Isaac.
I grew up in the South. In my state and city, everybody was comfortable with firearms. We didn't think twice about it. It wasn't a big deal.
Isaac, most people, I will tell you, I would think most people are not comfortable with firearms. I'm going to throw in another example. I'm was a professional fighter, 2-time world champion, 6-degree black belt. When I am introduced that way to people, and I'm in a room of 10 people, it changes the entire atmosphere of the room. You know why? Because the whole conversation, oh my God, I wouldn't want to meet you in the back alley. Oh my God, I bet you can break my arms. Oh my God, I bet you can knock me out. The whole conversation, it changes the whole atmosphere in a room. So are you telling me that when a person walks into a room, not a uniformed officer, because that does not bother me at all, or someone who looks like maybe a detective or something, that doesn't bother me at all. But some person comes in and has this big gun on their hip. Are you telling me that most people do not feel a little intimidated by that?
People that are familiar with firearms, I don't think they are.
But most people probably are not familiar with firearms, would you say?
No, I mean, Don, you can chime in here, but I think most people probably even own a firearm, or what is it, 40% or so?
There's 200 million firearms in the United States. So quite a few people own them.
Well, again, I don't know if that's justification, because we're going to keep going back to what I premised the show on, was that just because you have it, that doesn't mean you're trained, that doesn't mean you're qualified, and it doesn't mean you're responsible. So anyway, I'm going to keep bringing that up.
Yeah,
when you get scared by a person carrying a firearm, if you're intimidated by a person carrying a firearm, just like people get intimidated when they hear you're a black belt, that's them projecting their fear on you.
That's prejudice, man.
Be afraid of a lot of things.
Well, like I said, I don't walk into a store with a black belt on for that reason, right? Because people, I'm just simply saying that look, I have no problem with conceal, because I don't know anyway. But that's why I guess I'm kind of bent towards martial arts, because I look like a normal person. You guys are all martial artists. You look like a normal person, if you will, but you know how to defend yourself without a weapon, a gun or something, right? So my point is, when people see that, right? When they see it, so concealed. Tell me, what do you think about this? Is there a psychology? The difference in the psychology for a person who would open carry and a person who would conceal. Do you think there's a difference in the mentality?
No, because I've done both. And you talked about stories. Let me tell you one story. When I lived in a different state where open carry was the norm, late at night, stopped at a convenience store. Wife was driving and I went inside to get something. And when I went inside, there was one other person, another customer in there. And after I went in there, this other customer left before I made my purchase. I went up, made my purchase, and the clerk said, "Thank you." I'm like, "Why are you saying thank you?" He says, "That guy's been hanging around for a while, but once you walked in and he saw that shoulder holster of yours, he changed his mind and left because I know he was going to do something." Now, the clerk was glad I walked in. This other person was not glad that I walked in. And through the whole time that I lived in that state, I would wear from time to time, thinking nothing of it, and nobody really said anything to me, because in that state it was very common. And that was, in order to get a concealed weapon license, you had to go through stuff, but in order to open carry, it was perfectly fine, because then everybody could see and the police knew what you had. Where in some places, The reason they make you go through a concealed weapons course is because they want to know who's out there. Concealed weapons to some of the police are more dangerous than an open carry. On open carry, they see and they know. And you're not going to open carry if you're up to something nefarious. Whereas concealed carry, criminals will conceal carry, and then all of a sudden that gun comes out, and that's where the trouble starts.
Okay, so I'm going to bend it a little bit more. I'm going to go into this just a little bit more. Our society has some issues, right? And just in case you didn't notice, I'm an African American. So is there an implicit bias of me walking around open carry and you walking around open carry? In the case where I put this picture up on yesterday, where I had a picture of me in my sunglasses and a mask. And let's just say if I had a weapon on my hip to go with it, do you think that is as acceptable as you walking in the store dressed the exact same way? Isaac.
To me, absolutely.
Isaac, it's not to you, Isaac, because you are a professional. I'm talking
so let me put it in this terms, all right? I think there is bias at points. All right. I do. I think there is. And look, I even tell my students this. If you are a minority, depending on where you are and you get pulled over, interactions even with law enforcement, I support law enforcement. They have a heck of a job, man. Like, it's hard.
I agree.
All right. They have to make split-second decisions. But sometimes you might have to work double hard to prevent any type of misunderstandings. All right. And that's just the nature of it. That's just how it is, depending on where you are. And the other piece of it, too, is you're right. Our country is very different. If you grow up in an urban area, there's only two people that have guns, usually cops and bad guys.
Whoa.
So that has shaped your entire perception of firearms. All right. Versus you go to more rural areas, everybody's got firearms. You grow up with them. 10 years old, you're walking around shooting tree branches off trees with your 20 gauge, Right. It's a totally different perception. So I would say this, a lot of it has to do culturally of where you are. Even with open carry, if I'm in Oklahoma and I'm in a small town in Oklahoma, probably more than half the people are open carrying and nobody thinks a thing of it, right? Now you take Charlotte, open carry. Charlotte's it's a progressive type of city, right? People from all over, right? Yeah. So, if I walk into the Target there in Ballantyne with an open carry, I should understand that, some people are going to get uncomfortable because they don't understand firearms. They see it as intimidation. I might even expect to get a little, hey, how are you, from a police officer, and explain to them I'm fine, and a pat on the back or whatever, say, okay, go about your business. But it wouldn't surprise me if somebody called law enforcement on me just because of where I'm at.
But you do recognize if I did the same thing, there's going to be probably a whole squad of cops that's going to happen way too many times. So I'm not just throwing this out just as bullcrap. I see that. Matter of fact, there were some guys walking in the store just the other day. It was on Facebook, somewhere on social media, where they got kicked out of the store for just wearing their mask and being brown skinned.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. Look, in 1967, right? The whole reason California did away with open carry was because the Black Panthers were trying to patrol their city in Oakland in the neighborhoods, right? And they went to the Capitol. And people didn't like that. It scared people. Governor Ronald Reagan was like, nope, we're not going to. So they banned open carry because a bunch of black people were exercising their constitutional rights. So trust me, I get it and things. So, and like I said, I tell my students this. I'm a realist, man. If you are a minority, you might have to try a little bit harder to comply with stuff.
So like we talk about Philando Castile. Philando Castile was the guy who just basically the cop stopped him and asked him, hey, do you have a weapon? He shows a weapon, as I understand it, and he got blown away.
Well, hang on.
I don't know what else happened, but I'm just saying that was the general idea. When he showed him the gun, the guy lost it.
Well, what happened there, and the police officer, he was wrong. I'm not. Trust me, like he was new. He was a rookie. He had a bad case of nerves. He probably shouldn't have been a cop in the first place. All right, but this is a cardinal rule that I tell students, and Don knows this. Never, ever tell a law enforcement officer that you are armed and then make a motion. You do not do it. You tell them that you are a legally licensed concealed carrier. You keep your hands at 10 and 2 or out the window. All right. And if people are like, well, that's horrible. That's like, you're trying, it's like they're intimidating you. What? Look, you don't want to get shot. All right. So,
and you're saying, Isaac, you're saying that specifically if you are a person of color.
No, that's everybody.
Okay, everybody. Okay. But I would say specifically if you are a person of color.
Hey, Johnny, I'm 6'4", 200-pound male white guy. I've been drawn down on by the police for that exact reason. I've been on the other end of their service firearm as a legal carrier. I understand that feeling when that police officer is pointing that firearm at you and asking you questions. Believe me, I've been there and I know how it feels.
But Don, let's be honest. Looking at that picture that I have right now on the screen, you're a pretty big dude with tattoos. So yeah, that might discriminate against you just a little bit.
But I understand the position. And like he was just saying, one of the things I did was my hands were as far away from the firearm as possible, and I wasn't doing anything unless instructed to. Any move can be misinterpreted. And so I followed the exact directions. And the whole time I'm looking at a shaking firearm on the other end. And I can tell you, there's nothing more intimidating and scary when the firearm is actually shaking, because that is telling you that their nerves could pop at a moment without them even realizing.
Those single action pistols are easy to go off.
Whew.
Right, because all it takes is pressure. All it takes is pressure. Right.
And this is a trained law enforcement officer.
Right.
He was facing, and I did not know if he was accidentally going to pull that trigger.
So I want to change gears just a little bit about the legal ramifications of shooting somebody, because a lot of people think I can just shoot somebody. That if you come up to me and you say, call my wife a beat, that I can just shoot you. Or,
no, that's crazy.
You guys are kind of weigh the morals versus the law, or whatever the situation might be. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Let's start with you, Isaac.
Yeah, so those types of people, they don't know anything like that make those types and think that type of stuff. I teach both North Carolina and South Carolina. The law was basically the same. It's worded a little bit different, but there are very specific criteria that you have to meet. And if you don't meet those criteria, you're probably going to go to jail. You're probably going to get indicted at a minimum for manslaughter, if not second-degree homicide. All right. And in these classes, I mean, there's basically two ways that if you have to use deadly force, that you're not going to be, I'll say, indicted. Notice I didn't say arrested or taken to jail, right? I said indicted by the DA. Okay. Right. It's the self-defense, doctrine of self-defense, or Castle doctrine. One of those two ways. All right. And if you don't meet the criteria of either one of those and you've killed someone, you're going to jail.
What are your thoughts on that, Don?
Well, for me, it's very simple. I've seen the result. I've been in war. I never, ever want to have to use a firearm. I've been shot at in civilian life. I know what it feels to hear a bullet ricochet right by your head and watching a police officer duck behind his car while I'm out in the open. Granted, I was armed at the time, but still, I never, ever want to have to use it. That's the last thing I ever want to have to be subjected to. Always been a thought process of mine. If I absolutely had to, if I was facing that life or death situation, Could I? Because as a moral person, I don't want to take a life. I really
No.
don't. I don't want to be in a fight. I may train for fights, I may do the thing, but do I actually want to be in a street fight? I've been mugged. I've woken up in the ditch when I was a teenager. I got mugged in New York. I woke up with a car horn, my just car going feet away from my head. So I've been in these situations, and I know I don't want to be in them again.
Yeah.
But me taking a life is the last thing I would ever want to do. But if it involved saving my own life or saving the life of another person, family member, could I do it? I think I could, but I can never answer that question until I'm in that position. And that's my mental thought as a moral person who's been through a lot in life. Who can do that? Who really can do that? I don't think anybody wants to take a life. And nobody knows who can do it until they're absolutely in that position.
And just to add to that, so this is one of my biggest things, and I'll see it occasionally from people, is that students that they'll come to class thinking they're going to get their concealed carry permit, but you can tell they think they're going to be a vigilante.
Right.
They think they're going to save the world. What it really is they think they're going to be like backup reserve law enforcement. They had that dream, something stupid, right? And I shut that down real quick. All right. So look, I mean, when you carry a firearm, what I always tell people is you have to know what I call them your engagement parameters are before you ever even carry that gun. Meaning, at what situation will I pull my firearm? And mine are simple. It's to save my life, to save my family's life, to save a uniformed police officer. Notice I said uniform, because if he's not in uniform, I don't really know he's a cop, right? And anything outside of that, I'm probably not going to do it. Because I don't really know. I don't really know what the situation is. And if I get involved in a situation and I get it wrong, I'm going to jail.
Right. So that tells me, that tells me a lot. Again, why there shouldn't be so many people with guns who are not properly trained and would have the right mental capacity to handle that responsibility. Anyway, I'm going to keep hopping on that. But listen, what is considered to be a real threat? Could you have any scenarios? Because a lot of people think, hey, I saw this guy running out of my house with a TV in his hands, right? And he was running across the yard, and I pulled out my 45 and I gunned him down. Not necessarily.
What you just said, I gunned him down as he was running away.
You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
I got get so
your TV was threatened, but not your life.
So say that again, Don.
I said, you just said it. He was running away. Your life was not threatened. Your TV was threatened. Your TV, wave goodbye to your TV, but you can't take a life for him running away with your property. You're going to jail. You're wrong.
Can you give, Isaac, can you give me another example of when to shoot and when not? Give me an example of when a person should.
Okay, so well, it's real simple. It's the 4 criteria of self-defense. Is what it is, which is that you feel that there is an imminent threat to your life or serious bodily injury. Other people, other like-minded people would also have agreed with you, right? And there was nothing else that you could do to prevent it, meaning this was your last resort. So if you meet those types of criteria, and again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not giving legal advice, that's my disclaimer.
That's a perception thing, yes.
Yeah, right? But if you don't meet those criteria, you don't pull the gun. And notice I said that even the trigger, you don't even pull the gun.
It takes a lot. So what you're telling me, it takes a lot before you actually should use your weapon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It is a last resort. You don't want to do it. And remember, it's not your decision to pull the gun. That decision is made for you by someone else.
Huh?
If they put you in a position, they've made the decision that you're going to have to go to that extreme. You don't decide, I'm going to walk into the situation. Someone else has put you in that situation.
But it also comes down to perception, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, right? That if you feel that you're being threatened, but let's go back. Look, I got to bring this subject up. I got to, and I'm sorry that I know some people get upset about, he's talking about racial thing. Well, this is real talk, real solutions. I don't babysit conversation. If you want to come on my show, you better be ready to talk real talk, right? So the perception to a lot of people is because of the color of my skin that I am an immediate threat to you. So does that give you reason to shoot me?
No.
But a lot of people or even aim your weapon at me, which is a threat. But again, doesn't that go back to why a lot of people, unfortunately, are buying these guns?
So listen, so a lot of people might feel that way, all right? But you have to remember, legally, that stuff's not going to hold up. They were in the wrong if they do that stuff, okay? You just can't pull a gun on somebody because you're black and you're wearing sunglasses and you got your face mask on trying to prevent coronavirus, okay? You can't do it. They did not meet the criteria for that level of escalation, and they'll be prosecuted, okay? But here's the issue, though. Even though there's objective criteria for self-defense, it's always subjective around the events of each individual encounter. So let me give you a quick example of this, all right? Let's say I'm pumping gas, okay? And I look over there and there's an 80-year-old woman on a walker coming at me. And she says, I'm going to rob you, you SOB, right? Okay. I can't, if I pull my gun and shoot her, are other people going to agree with that?
Right, no, probably not.
No. Now switch it, exact same scenario, little old lady pumping gas. And I'm coming at her, I'm going to rob you. And she pulls her gun and shoots me. Exact same scenario. Is she justified?
Wow.
A lot of people will say yes. And again, it depends on who's on the jury, who the DA is, who the detective is, right? Working the case. But that's what it is. So there's objective criteria that have to be met, but it's always subjective to the players and stuff. And that's where a lot of times implicit biases, racism, and other things can start to creep in.
Okay, you know what? Right there, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to move on to some gun safety tips, and I want you guys to give your professional opinion on those. But the one question this is kind of crazy. But this is the mind of Johnny Davis, okay? Because I love all people. I'm telling you, right? Anybody see the way I treat people, you can tell right away that I love people. I just love people in general. But I do have a question. So, Don, on the background of this show today, that is you at the fire range, by the way. When you see this actually later on, that is you at the fire range. You are shooting, and you got a big puff of smoke. On the other end of that range is this big black figure, a head and a body. Has anyone given any thought? Now listen, I know what colors are. I know the difference. I had a kid one time in a store to say, I don't like those black shoes. And the mom looked at me saying, oh my God, don't say that. I'm like, that has nothing to do with me. He just doesn't like black shoes. I mean, but in this day and time when unfortunately African-American people, especially big black men, have been perceived as a threat. When every day you are going to the range and you are shooting at that target, because that target could be any color. Is there anything potentially, could be psychological about that target? That's a weird question, but I want to bring it to you first, Don, since you're the one that's shooting it.
Not to me. To me, it's a piece of paper with, markings for center mass, for scoring rings.
It's going to be yellow.
While that target may have been black, there are times when I'm shooting at white paper plates, blue targets, orange, the clay pigeons. I'm shooting at orange clay pigeons. Or if I'm shooting an IPSC target, which is pure cardboard, no color to it at all, if it's turned around, then it's considered a hostage target, which you're not supposed to hit. And sometimes we'll paint black stripes on those that would represent hardcover, which means you couldn't shoot through it.
Okay.
So the color of the target has no mental meaning to me as far as, oh, I'm shooting it because it's black, or I'm shooting it because it's blue.
No, Don, not that it does. Could it? No, I'm not talking about just the color. I'm not talking about just the color black. I'm talking about the fact that it is a human figure black. I'm just asking. It's just a question. I know some people say, "Oh, that sounds racist." No, this is reality here. I live with this stuff every day.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if there's anything.
What you're talking about is a standard B-27 target, which has been used, I can't tell you how long it's been used, but the standard B-27 gives you a human-sized target. And the reason it's human size is they're training people to know where to shoot, basically, and Isaac will agree with me, it's center mass shots, but not all targets are that black. Can somebody mentally project on that? Sure. Absolutely. People can mentally project a lot of things.
I mean, honestly, Johnny, the reason it's black and white is because that's the most contrast between. I mean, that's the easiest color to see, and not the color itself, but the contrast between black and white. Now, I mean, could they have made the background black and the silhouette target white? Sure, but I mean,
just asking.
Yeah, it's the I mean, I would have a hard time thinking anybody would go to a range, use a standard B-27 target, and be like, "I'm shooting a black man." I just don't. I don't think.
Isaac, you might have a hard time, but let me give you an example. Just the other day when I put that mask on and I was talking about, I hope I don't get shot. Someone actually asked me, "What are you talking about?" About 3 or 4 times. This is a person who I know well, right? And they could not figure out. They could not even fathom what I was talking about. So it's a reality. I'm just simply saying, do you think some people might have that psychological? We're going to digress. We're going to move on. Just thought I would just shoot it out there, guys. Johnny Davis Live, real talk, real solution. You want to say something, Don?
I was just going to say, I mean, when I've been on the range, the indoor range that I've shot at, and I've been there with black guys shooting at those black targets. So I don't think anybody.
They're not Johnny Davis. They don't think like they don't think, maybe not think as broad as I do. All I'm simply saying is that a lot of people are going to do it because they think it's okay. Everything that society has out there doesn't make it right. I'm just simply bringing up a point psychologically that it might play some role in some of these things that might be going on in society where it might feel okay to shoot a black target. Period. Whether it's living,
I don't think.
I'm just saying.
I don't think that topic rises to the level of impacting society or anything like that. That's pretty far down on the totem pole, I think. John.
I think so too. But I thought I would at least bring it out. I agree with you, Isaac. Okay. So moving on, let's talk about some safety now. Let's talk about if indeed you happen to have a weapon. Let's talk about. We're going to close out the show with a bunch of tips on how we can handle these weapons a lot more safe. And I think that's the whole point of this show as well, right? And we'll be winding things down here for just a moment. So, Don, what is your take on always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction? It sounds like a common sense thing, but apparently everybody obviously do not do that. What's your take on that?
And even at the store, when I'm selling a firearm, one of the things that I'm always conscious of, where is that muzzle pointed? And I know every gun under glass is not loaded. It doesn't matter to me because the first rule of firearms is treat every firearm as if it is loaded. So if you stay in the habit of always pointing it in a safe direction, you are practicing one of the most basic safety practices, one of the most basic safety habits. Always have it pointed where it cannot do any damage. Whether you know for a fact it's loaded or not, you treat it as if it is loaded. That is the cardinal rule of firearms. Treat it as if it's loaded. So,
great.
Of course, you keep the muzzle pointed away.
What's your take on that, Isaac?
Yeah, no, that's there is no take. It's just right.
All right. I like it. Okay, another tip. Always keep your finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. Now, that's something that I see on TV a lot, where these guys these police officers are walking through and they're not indexing. I think they call that indexing, but they're walking through with their hands on that trigger. What's your take on that, Don?
Isaac, you take this one.
Yeah, I mean, don't touch the trigger until you're ready to initiate. You have properly aligned sights. You got a good sight picture, and then you start to gently, slowly pull that trigger back. If you're not ready to take the shot, that finger stays on the frame of the gun. It doesn't even rest on the trigger guard. That's still on the trigger. It's on the frame.
Right. They call that indexing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute! Don't tell me I haven't learned something already. Don't, I mean, I've learned something already. Let me just kind of pound on that point just a moment. One of the things that the instructor said in that class to my friend was that the only thing that a gun operates with is pressure, which means even a baby or a little small child can pull that trigger. Not a baby, but a small child. If you throw it in a cage with a bunch of gorillas, eventually they might pull that trigger, correct? So the gun itself does not think. It has to have a brain behind it, correct?
Yes. It is a machine. It needs someone to operate it.
Right. Just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So, but this is an interesting point right here too. Always keep the gun unloaded until ready to use. Okay, so a burglar breaks into your house. Your gun, you got to go get your bullets. You got to load it, or maybe it's already in the clip. But what if you have a revolver? You don't agree with this rule?
No. I agree with the rule, but your scenario I don't agree with.
Okay.
Because at nighttime, I am ready to use it for self-defense and protection. Right. So, for example, at my house at nighttime, my firearm is within an arm's reach and ready to go. But there's not one in the chamber or anything like that. But it's loaded and ready to go. All right. Some people don't like that. They'll leave the magazine out, right? But where they can quickly, put it in and stuff. But if you are leaving that gun out because you want to use it as self-defense during that night, you are making it ready to go. Right now, that's different than when I wake up in the morning. You put the gun up, you lock it up, you secure it, you make sure nobody has access to it, etc., like that, right? Unless you want to carry it on you.
Every night you're taking your weapon out?
I'm leaving it within an arm's reach, yes.
Huh. I thought one of the things the guy told me in the class, told my friend in the class,
right?
So what he said in the class was that you don't want to keep your weapon at your bedside, because what if your little child comes running in the room and startles you?
Okay. But listen, go ahead, Don. You take it. I know what you're going to say.
That you do not leave it where it is accessible to unauthorized people.
Yep.
In my case, I don't know about Isaac's, but in my case, everyone in my household, which right now happens to be my wife and I, we are qualified and able to use the firearms. So that we're not unauthorized. Both of us are authorized. So for me to have a firearm accessible in case of home invasion, which does occur and has occurred in this area, we are ready if, God forbid, someone comes to the home, as opposed to getting up, going to the safe, loading one, and that time it's already too late. Now, does everybody practice that where they have one ready to go? No. But like Isaac said, at night, go to sleep, he has one possibly ready to be used. Hopefully it is not going to be used. But that's a difference between preparedness and
Yeah. And but that I want to make that clear. Everybody has to look at your home situation. If you have little toddlers running around and you know that they run in at night and jump on you and while you're sleeping, absolutely not. You would not want to do that. Right. All right. My situation's not like that. All right. And even if it is, I can still have a ready to go firearm within an arm's reach, but it still be secured. So these are the things where it's not always I'll say it this way. What people do isn't always one size fits all, but the concept should always be the same. Securing your firearm, making sure other people can't get to it when they don't need to. But how you do that, it differs between what your unique situation is.
Okay. What you talked about a little bit earlier, you alluded to about knowing your target and what is beyond, right? Again, the scenario was brought up. Somebody they're standing at your daughter's door, and you just start firing. Well, who's on the other side of that door, right? So I saw this scenario on Facebook. Where they had the person standing in Walmart, and the guy walks up to the lady with a big knife, puts her out of back. The guy standing in line takes the gun and aims it at. Basically, you can't hear it, but he's probably telling them, "Hey, drop the knife." But you look closely, and everybody was coming on saying, "Oh my God, that's good." So you got to be, look how the gun changed that scenario. But on the other side of that person, there was a person bagging groceries. How important is it to know your target to know what's beyond your target?
It's absolutely important. When that
you have to.
You're responsible for it.
Yeah.
Say that again, Don.
It's absolutely important because once that bullet leaves that barrel, if you loose that bullet out from that barrel, you're responsible for wherever it lands.
Wow.
So you must absolutely know what you're aiming at and what could possibly be hit beyond that.
So you pull that trigger, it goes through the bad guy, but hits the bagging clerk. That's manslaughter. You're liable for that. It goes through and it hits the Maserati parked out in the parking lot. Guess who the insurance company comes after for indemnification? You, because you shot the Maserati, right? Even though it was a self-defense situation. So just real quick on that, to help prevent that, make sure you use the right ammo for the right situation.
Right.
There's self-defense rounds. People are like, "Oh, those are hollow points." Those are horrendous because you're really messing up the person. You're trying to kill them. No, you're trying to prevent over-penetration is what you're trying to prevent.
Yeah, you don't want collateral damage.
What's that, Don?
You don't want collateral damage. You want to end the situation, not create a new one.
Right. Well, I know even at the range not long ago where I live, there's a range near here, and these people were in their homes, and all of a sudden bullets were coming all through the house. Well, it comes to find out that the person at the range had some, illegal bullets in the gun, and it was going through the target into this neighborhood. That's just crazy. Right. So knowing the correct ammo and what it does is really important, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's different types of ammo. There's green tips for AR-15s and stuff that have a higher velocity. Like, you have to know your ammo, and you have to know how it's going to react to whatever your target is and whatever your backstop is. The other thing is, don't shoot at something practice-wise if you don't know what the backstop is.
Really, 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 really good point. As I wind it down here, I do want to ask a probably simple question. All right. Never use alcohol or over-the-counter prescription drugs before or while shooting. Don, what do you got to say about that?
No. Just like you don't operate a vehicle under those situations either. You have to be in control of all your faculties.
But Don, but yeah, I don't operate it under drugs, but I can go and drive without getting any training with it. Okay. I had to go back to the beginning because I'm going to stick with that. But we need to be trained before, right? We are able to purchase a weapon. I'm going to stick with that. And one more thing, guys. What about cleaning your weapon? A lot of people shoot themselves when they are cleaning their weapons. Give us a little bit of idea about how we should handle that. Who wants to take that one on?
First things first, before you even consider working on your firearm, for whatever reason, the ammo is nowhere near the firearm. It is put somewhere else. It shouldn't be anywhere near the firearm if you're doing any kind of maintenance, be it cleaning, repair, whatever.
Yep. I'll take it a step further and say, not only ammo, your magazines. Don't even have those around.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah, you know, some people, they have a lot of magazines. There might be one in there or something. It's just eliminate all of it. Take the ammo, take the magazines, put them somewhere else, right? And then work on your clean your firearm. But to this too, cleaning your firearm is critical. To Don's point, these are machines. These are tools. Machines and tools do two things. They work and they break, all right? Especially semi-automatic pistols. Don't buy a gun and leave it in a drawer like your friend does, right? Because it's probably going to get dried out. It's not going to function, right? You might get 2 or 3 rounds in there and you're going to get a failure to feed or failure to eject or something. And you'll be like, what's wrong with this gun? Nothing's wrong with the gun. It's not properly maintained.
So you are licensed, you are a concealed trainer in North and South Carolina, right, Isaac?
Yes, that's correct.
I just have a feeling my friend is going to be giving you a call.
I don't know if I want that friend in my class. It's too much liability.
Oh, that's going to hurt his feelings. Now, hey, well, listen, okay. To that point, right? How does a person get trained if people like you don't even want them in the class because you think
I'm joking about that. I'm joking. Look, I will train anybody that has a sincere desire to learn and to take it serious. Yes. If you come in and you're acting out of carelessness and just ignorance or flippant, no, I don't even want that liability. Right. You go take my class and then you go out and you shoot somebody. They're going to be like, well, he got his concealed carry. Who was his trainer? They come back, Isaac, did you show him how to do all this stupid stuff? Right. And he comes back on me. I don't even want that. Right. I have asked people to leave my class before because they are not of a maturity level to handle it.
Right. What's your take on that, Don?
Absolutely. When you have someone in the class, just like when we're teaching martial arts and boxing and everything else, when we have somebody in there, we want people who are trainable, who are intelligent, who are going to listen and then follow the rules. Because if they're listening to me now, they'll be responsible later.
Mm-hmm. Right. But you know what? You guys have been absolutely awesome. So much information, guys. Again, we had an hour and a half show today and all, but I think it was informative for people. And I think that when people get a moment, and a lot of us have a lot of extra time right now, they can, and again, maybe without this pandemic right now, wouldn't have had this much time to talk about it. Hopefully it's going to be informative to people and make people maybe think twice before purchasing a weapon. And certainly if they do, is to get trained on it. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out today, Mr. Isaac Richards out of Indian Land, South Carolina, and Mr. Don Cody out of Sumter, South Carolina, for your expertise. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Johnny.
All right, talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you had it right there. If you do not feel more educated about weapons today, I just don't know. I want to thank all of our guests for joining in today with your questions and things like that. We certainly appreciate it. Hopefully you guys will really take a look at this issue and some of the things that we talked about. Again, it is your constitutional right to own in the Second Amendment, right? And so no problem with that. But if you decide to, just be responsible and get proper training. That's all we ask. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. I want to thank everyone for watching Johnny Davis live right here on Facebook. This will also be uploaded to YouTube. I want everybody to always respect each other. Please be safe out there. Stay home for now. Wash those hands. Follow the CDC. Always forward march. This is Johnny Davis Live, and I'm checking out. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.